Hey Flower Tribe, it's Kelly Lehman from Cranberry Fields Flower Farm, and I wanted to tell you why I'm pruning my endless summer hydrangeas, and it's spring. So I usually don't do this. I usually leave my hydrangea, my endless summer hydrangea alone, because I know that the buds that were put in place in fall are going to be this year's flowers, and if I cut them back from the branches in springtime, I'm going to lose that first flush of flowers. However, I wanted to show you what's going on with my garden now. If we haven't met yet, my name is Kelly Lehman. I'm the owner of Cranberry Fields Flower Farm here in Cranberry, New Jersey, and I love giving you guys fun, free flower tips. So please feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel and hit that bell notification so you know whenever I post another fun, free flower tip video. So I'm out here with Lucy, and I wanted to show you some of these transplanted endless summer and Nico hydrangeas that I have here in my front. Now, we planted these last fall, so they were pretty mature plants, but they weren't in a great spot where I had them. I had them in a place that was getting too much shade. It was in the back of the farm. They were not blooming. So I gave them like 4 years to do their thing, and it just was planted in the wrong spot. So listen, sometimes you just got to adjust and, shift things around. Spring is also a great time to move some of your plants around. We've also moved a ton of our limelight hydrangeas last spring. So when the plants are dormant is a terrific time to start moving them around. So anyway, we had moved all these hydrangeas around, and usually the first year that you see them, the next blooming season after you transplant something, especially hydrangeas, a lot of times you won't get many flowers. They're just starting to get adjusted. They're just trying to figure out, their new home. So don't be discouraged. But I do want to show you some steps that I'm taking to kind of help mine out. So right now, my endless summer hydrangeas look horrible. I don't have any of that new growth that usually shows up on that old wood. So right now, a healthy endless summer should look a little more like this. I actually snagged one of these branches from a healthy endless summer that I have in a different part of the farm. So this is what the branches should look like right now. So you've got your old wood stem that was from last year, and these buds were actually put in place starting last fall. And the problem that a lot of gardeners have is that they come out in spring and they cut their hydrangeas down to the ground. And that's okay for some hydrangeas. I don't ever cut mine down to the ground. I always leave them at least 18 inches tall, like my annabelles. Some of those I'll cut back, but you should never cut back like the mopheads, the ones that come in on that, old wood, because you're cutting off all the blooms. So the good thing about endless summer is they come in on this old wood, and if you did make the mistake of cutting them all the way back to the ground, it's not that big of a deal, because endless summer are great because they come with another set of blooms that are going to start coming from the base of the plant later on in spring. So you don't have to worry too much about that. But anyway, my endless summer, these guys that were transplanted, look very different than my normal endless summer. And here's some things that I'm going to do right now to kind of help it out. So hold on 1 second. Let me get my clippers over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of all the broken branches that are in here, because these are just adding some stress to the plant. So a plant doesn't want to, have to deal with this. This isn't going to give me a bloom. This is not helping the plant right now. It's only hurting the plant. So you can go out to most of your plants this time of year. It's April here in my New Jersey garden, and I'm just going to kind of clip those back. I'm going to get rid of all the broken branches. I'm also going to get rid of any of the branches that I see are dead. So it's very clear to me that this stem right here is dead because it's white. It's totally white. So I can actually cut this stem. Let me get a little bit closer in here so you can see it. If you cut into a branch and it's white, then chances are it's dead. So let's see if it's dead all the way to the bottom. Sometimes it just has dead growth on the top, and you can salvage the bottom. It looks like it's getting a little greener on the bottom. I'm going to go down a little more. It's pretty dead. So I'm just going to cut this one down right at the base, because once again, this plant doesn't have to support that dead wood, and I'm going to just clean that up when I get down there later on. So you're going to get rid of all your broken branches, you're going to get rid of all your dead branches, and you're going to get rid of any branches that are crisscrossed. So these guys are crisscrossed, and that means they're going to start rubbing up against each other. And that's going to cause for a weaker branch. It's going to allow like disease to get in there, and it's going to allow like pests to come in there. Hey Susan, thanks for checking in. Hey guys, let me know where you're viewing this from. If you can, if you would like to give me a like, that would be helpful. Let me know where you're viewing this from in comments. I'd love to see how our flower tribe is growing around the globe each week. That would be great. So anyway, I'm going to cut out this one here. I'm actually going to cut it down. I'm going to take a look at this branch, and I'm seeing that there's like a dead one right next to it on this V. So this is a great branch to cut out. So this guy's rubbing against this one. This guy's dead. So this is a great branch to kind of cut back. I'm going to go down to a fresh set of buds, which is here. Hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm going to give it a snip and get in here better. You know what? Yeah, there's a little bit of green left on there, so that's okay. And I'm going to get rid of that branch. So if you have an endless summer, it's a good idea to kind of get rid of those, if there's any flower heads on them. Like if this guy had like one of those brown flower heads, a lot of times I'll leave the brown flower heads on for the winter. I'll go down to like a fresh set of healthy nodes, and I'll cut it like right above. But I don't know if you guys have noticed, none of these nodes are looking healthy. And once again, I think that's because they were transplanted. They probably went into a little bit of shock. And then we had those crazy winter storms here in New Jersey in March. So we had like a couple 60-degree days. The plants started warming up. And then we had like deep freezes. So it was like 22 degrees for like 3 days at the end of March. And I think everything either got winter zapped or they're just not looking good. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to clean up a lot of those dead branches. I'm going to get rid of the diseased branches. I'm going to get rid of the crisscross branches. But I'm actually, for the first time in like years and years, I'm going to give these endless summers a haircut. So I'm actually going to come in here, probably this, I think this is like beyond my clippers at this point, because there's like nothing left here. There's like, none of these are going to give me flowers. Like this is crispy. Sometimes if you like lean into your plant at this time of year, be patient, because sometimes it does look like this, but when you like put your nail into it, they'll be green. And that means that probably the rest of these little guys, even though they look crummy, will turn green, and then you will have flowers. So don't do this prematurely. I just happen to know that as I go down this entire stem, as I put my finger into it, there's no green. Like everything is just brown and beat up. And I was hoping to find a couple that looked more like that green branch that I showed you before that had those little buds on it, but there are no buds to be found here. So I am going to just probably come in here with like, you know, like a almost like one of those hedge shearers, and I'm going to come in, I'm just going to give it like a haircut, because this is basically like no blooms. I want the plant to be super healthy, so I'm probably going to cut it to about here. And the other thing is that when we planted these, the plants were too big for this wall. So like, you know, they look a little wild. So I want a little more of a tailored look. I want to cut this endless summer hydrangea down so it's about maybe like a foot or two beneath the top of this stone wall, because otherwise it just kind of looks like wild. It looks like Wile E. Coyote back here. So I'm probably going to come in here and cut it back, you know, today, tomorrow. Sheldon will help me with that. And that's the reason why I'm cutting back these endless summer. But for the most part, guys, if your endless summer does look more like this, if the branches are looking like this time of year, and it's got these beautiful green buds, leave it alone, because these are your first flush of flowers. So do not cut them off. So these are like, you know, drastic times, you know, drastic measures and drastic times. So if your endless summer looks like this, or even if it's not totally like this, but if you look, like if I was looking at this branch and I only looked at this one, I would say, oh, this branch might be dead. But, you know, in reality, if you really look closely, there's some green in there. So this is going to be a beautiful, well, this would have been a beautiful hydrangea flower if I didn't cut it off. So give your hydrangeas a little more time. You might even want to wait another couple weeks before, maybe like another week or two, depending on where you live, to give them a little more chance to bud out. And for the most part, I have to tell you, the best garden hack, I hardly ever even touch my endless summer hydrangeas. Like unless I'm cutting off that, you know, those dead branches or the crisscross ones, or I'm kind of giving it like a deadheading, just getting rid of those, you know, fluff balls on the top. I usually don't give it a heavy pruning at all. I hardly ever really give my endless summer hydrangeas or my Nico hydrangeas a pruning, because I don't want to mess, you know, with both sets of flowers. But that's what's going on back here with the flower farm. Cheryl Ann asks, what do you feed them? I have to say, I'm not a huge fertilizer person. I think mostly because I'm lazy. I can't get to everything, you know, all the time. But I know a lot of gardeners do use rose food. I know that sounds like counterintuitive, but rose food does seem to help a lot of hydrangeas. And you want to get something that's not too high in nitrogen, because if you have a super high nitrogen fertilizer, it's going to give you those beautiful green leaves, but it may not give you the blooms, because nitrogen is really in charge of giving you those beautiful green leaves, and sometimes that's at the expense of the blooms. So I don't know, Flower Tribe, what are you guys using as your fertilizers for your hydrangeas? And this is actually a great question. If you want to hop over to my Flower Tribe page on Facebook, I have a Kelly Lehman's Flower Tribe Facebook group. There's a link down in the descriptions below. And there are literally thousands of gardeners from all over the world, and they're asking and answering tons of questions, because I can't always get to all of them. I mean, I get thousands of questions each week, and I try to answer as many as I can on Instagram and TikTok and Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook, but I can't always get to them. So the Flower Tribe has been awesome, and you guys have been fielding a lot of those questions for me. So check that out. And guys, I also have online flower courses in case you're interested in learning how to grow beautiful flowers in your own backyards. And they also make for a great Mother's Day gift. Those are in links below also. And I also have a brand new podcast out, and that's also in links below. So yeah, so that's the, I just wanted to show you, what I was doing back here today. Okay, so someone out, Garden Hand said we use rose tone early spring. Oh, there you go. Somebody said they, Espoma rose. Okay, we have one plant that's only bloomed 2 flowers once. How old is your plant, Cheryl Ann? Because I know that my mother-in-law has got a hydrangea. She got like an endless summer. And she planted it like 2 years ago, and she's like, I'm so done. This plant, hasn't given me blooms. And I'm like, you need to be patient. Like, you really need to give them a few years to get established, because when these hydrangeas first go in the ground, they're really worried about like their root development. They want to have strong leaves. They want to have sturdy stems. They're not that worried about the blossoms the first couple years. So be super patient with them. Oh, 10 years? Okay, never mind. Well, then, listen. Sherilyn, you might have, Sherilyn Ann, you might have the same problem I had. These guys didn't bloom for many years. Maybe they're not getting enough sunlight. And maybe they're getting too much water or too little water. There's actually a video that I made. It's called Why Aren't My Hydrangeas Blooming? And you can check that out on my hydrangea playlist, on this channel. And I think I give like 7 of the biggest reasons why your hydrangeas might not blooming. But those are the biggies. Sometimes people just prune them down to the ground when they shouldn't be. They might not be getting enough sunlight. They might be getting too much water, too little water. Oh, you're welcome. They might be getting too much nitrogen. Also keep in mind, guys, that when you fertilize your grass, the grass fertilizer is packed with a high nitrogen amount, like the ratio. And a lot of times what happens is it rains, and all the rainwater takes that fertilizer, that high nitrogen fertilizer from your lawn, and it washes it into your hydrangea beds. And then you didn't even mean to do this, but all of a sudden your hydrangeas has a boatload of nitrogen in them because of the lawn. So keep that in mind too. I know that happens to a lot of people also. And sometimes they have too much shade. And, sometimes people will buy them for Mother's Day or for Easter. Those cute little hydrangeas. Actually, you could probably see them now because it's Easter and Mother's Day is coming up. You'll see them in ShopRite. You'll see them in Trader Joe's. They're adorable. They're in those little pink foil and blue foil pots. Those hydrangeas are what's known as like specialty or occasion hydrangeas. And they were probably grown in greenhouses, because as you can tell, here in New Jersey, no one really has hydrangeas blooming in their yards at this time of year, unless they have a greenhouse or rows, or like outside in nature, it's still like 30 degrees a lot of times. There's no blooms right now. So when you see all these beautiful hydrangeas at the stores, they're called specialty hydrangeas. So they were grown in greenhouses just for the occasion. They were grown for Easter and Passover and for Mother's Day. And they're supposed to give you beautiful joy, and they'll make your mom happy, and they're super beautiful on your Easter table. But just know that if you put them in the ground later on when temperatures warm up, they're probably not going to last and come back the following year like these other like naturally grown hydrangeas, because once again they were babied in greenhouses, and they're not usually as hardy as other ones. So you might get lucky. You might have a couple that come back. I've never had any luck putting them in the ground and having them come back the following year. And a lot of them are even labeled annuals. So like I bought my daughter, we went to go visit her at college, my daughter Jill, and I bought her the most spectacular giant hydrangea. I mean, it had like 15 blooms on it. It's beautiful. I wanted her to have it for like her new apartment. But it said on the container, and this was from like Home Depot, it said annual hydrangea. So it was like, yeah, lady, you're buying this in March. it's, you know, it's not usually blooming at this time. So this is a special thing for, you know, for the holidays, and, you know, it's going to be good for about a year. So, you know, that was that. And it was just interesting to see it labeled as an annual because, you know, hydrangeas are supposed to be perennial. Flowers are supposed to come back every year. So that's the story. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Please let me know where you're viewing this from. I love seeing in comments where you're from. If you have any garden questions, put them below. They help me come up with my video topics every week. So I really appreciate the Flower Tribe's input. It's amazing the questions that you guys have. And so it really gives me my inspiration. You guys are my absolute inspiration. And this channel is created for you. So, okay, guys, and that's it. And Lucy's going to say goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. Teresa, thank you for checking in from Idaho, Teresa Trump. And guys, I'll see you in the next video. I'm going to try to maybe get to the Macy's flower show today. I don't know. I have a bit of a cold, so I might be a big baby and just stay home. But Sheldon and I are debating hopping on a train. And if I do that, I will wind up, you know, sending you guys a live video from there. Oh, someone said they use fish food. Oh, I love that. I kept hearing that fish food's really good, like that. I forget what it's called. Is it emulsion, fish emulsion? And Jay Baker, you're from Mashpee, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Thanks so much for checking in. All right, guys. Well, loved that you showed up. I appreciate each and every one of you. And I will see you in the next video. And come say hi to me over on my Cranberry Fields Instagram page. See you guys later. Bye, Luce.